But my purpose is not to frighten you, but to make you aware of what is happening around us. It is truly later than we think.
Christ is risen.
Truly is risen.
Ladies and
Hakan come.
We're going to be doing this all night, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, brothers and sisters, comrades, and other strangers, welcome to Meet the Blessed. It's like Meet the Press, but blessed. This week, we are joined with the Elder Jim Jatras, my on-again, off-again co-host for shows. It's always nice to see you, Jim. And, of course, Sava, Posh Redneck, returning. Last time we talked, we were on the Jay Dyer, Friend or Fred, the final Friend or Fed episode with Jay Dyer, where we came all full circle. And now we are back to talk about a few instances going on in the world, especially in the world of orthodoxy. The biggest news right now, of course, is Saint Seraphim of Platina or Platina or Platinum. Platina has now been is in the process of being glorified as the first American row course saint. Is the announcement. Which is amazing, which is great, which is very good news. I saw my time in the morning yesterday, and of course, Vladika George here in Australia was friends with Saint Seraphim, so and he's he's the Archbishop down here. I got to meet him last year on my birthday. He sang me happy birthday. So I get down on my spiritual resume. Not many people get to say that. So he was very pleased. The standard old thing. Many people are very happy about this announcement, about this news, and many people aren't. Gentlemen, what are your initial thoughts on Saint Seraphim of Platina?
I'll go first since I'm the American here. Again, it's the decision's been made by the Row Course Synod. I don't know when they'll schedule the actual glorification. I'm only slightly surprised that they did it. I thought they would follow through it, but there was some controversy over it. Obviously the allegations of homosexuality were important that people would raise. I think in a way that's kind of meaningful in that, somebody like Saint Cyprian, the former sorcerer who used to speak to the devil face to face, can repent and become a saint. Given that we live in an age where sexual sins are of the same importance that sorcery and magic were back in pagan times, I think in one sense it's appropriate. The other thought that occurs to me is that this is the first saint, and maybe this is a little controversial, that is an ethnic American in the sense of the majority, Anglo-American culture. I mean, we have many saints of essentially foreign origin, basically Serb or Syrian or Russian in America. And of course, we have newly glorified Saint Olga of Alaska, who was I believe, a Yupik Indian, Alaska native. And again, taking nothing away from her, but in terms of the core American ethnos, the English-speaking white ethnos, to have the first saint of that ethnic group that defines what the United States is. I think that's a very important thing as well. And of course, the other thing too is just how significant. I think we could start saying Saint Seraphim is in the entire Orthodox world. I mean, you go to Serbia, you go to Greece, you go to Russia, you see books in all the languages of those countries. He's just tremendously influential for the revival of orthodoxy in the post-communist lands, and also for the growth of orthodoxy in the, let's say, formerly and soon to be formerly, hopefully, heterodox lands of the West.
Yeah, he was massively important in Russia, especially in Soviet Russia. They were basically importing his books throughout the 80s. You brought up the homosexuality, of course, was one angle, but and then of course further on was the involvement of his co-monk Gleb. Do you know his last name? Can you pronounce his last name?
I don't remember now.
Let me just get his last name in front. We'll...
It was a Russian name, as I recall.
Second.
And I assume the commission that looked into this, dealt with all these issues and took them into account when they made the decision.
Yeah, Gleb Podomoyshky, who soon after Saint Seraphim reposed, was found guilty concerning having liaisons with young men. We'll put it that way, which caused a whole bunch of controversy and put sure. a lot of scrutiny on the monastery they had up in Platina. So Platina. Yes. So yeah, there was that dealing with, and that's kind of what's been the ongoing blowback with people who are upset about Saint Seraphim being even being considered for glorification, was really about the situation with Gleb. He's later defrocked, and he led the monastery into a schism and all these other things. But it seems to me that's been put to bed, at least at the level of Rokor. So that will be good to move past it, because his books have been tremendously powerful for a lot of people in the West. I know for myself even. But I know Buck Johnson, friend of the show, he quotes. He says he's always said that God's revelation to the human heart was the book that turned him towards orthodoxy. Many others say the same thing. Of course, I've got
the soul after death.
I gotta get through. Yeah. So it's a good. There we go. I think for American Orthodoxy, and these are conversations I think they're happening more and more now, especially with Gen Z and with all the influx of new catechumens into the church in America. This is, I think, an important time, because I think the other conversation people have been having is, why rush it? I think Saint Seraphim once said that someone should even be considered for sainthood until everyone who knew him has already passed away. So
there are practical considerations, obviously, but to share a bit of a cradle Orthodox perspective from an Orthodox majority country, I can't remember which exact year it was, but I remember I never thought we would see converts to Orthodoxy in the United States, especially because it's a self-subsistent entity, the United States. I can't remember who said it, but they said the United States, they were a planet in and of itself, with how not just big it is geographically, but with its self-subsistence culturally and everything that it's got going for it. But then I remember, I think it was around 2018, I saw some type of evangelical or Protestant, whatever, pastor interview an elderly, grey, white actually, bearded priest of the Orthodox Church. And I was expecting some heavy accent and, you know, this idea that Orthodoxy is an ethnic religion. And I heard no accent. And I thought, this man is too old to you know, not have an accent if he is an expatriate. But his name was Father Seraphim Cordoza. You might have heard of him. And I was in shock because I thought, after seeing Cordoza, like, is this some Romanian surname? No, it's Portuguese. But then I listened through a couple of these conversations, beautiful conversations. He was standing up for orthodoxy. The Protestant was, you know, very amicable. No problem on his end either. But then he had an even orthodoxier person on. So I was seeing monastic garbs. I was seeing long white hair, long white beard, and that was Abba Trifon, who was on there with Father Seraphim Cordoza. And Father Trifon, he is of Norwegian extraction. Thank God he is still with us and ministering for orthodoxy. But I remember that was a cultural shock to me. So to hear someone who is American being canonized is glorious, because, you know, other than, you know, Jim, we don't, we were all these pagan nations, right, who had to develop into these Christian identities, which is what the apostles were out for, right? You were supposed to, it wasn't turning everyone into an Old Testament Jew. It was creating a Jewish Christian, a Greek Christian, a Dutch Christian, an Irish Christian, an Assyrian, Ethiopian, whichever part of the world it was. But that takes time. Centuries back in the old days, maybe decades nowadays. We can only pray for such fortune. But that is part of becoming Christian and Orthodox in this sense, because in Protestantism, honestly, it's very shallow, very, very superficial. So you don't get actual transformation because you say a couple of things, you give verbal assent to a proposition, an intellectual proposition, and there you go. Now you're Christian, you're going to play a harp on a cloud, and that's it. The rest is, you know, extra. So I'm so happy to see so many people convert. Many of them write to me, and I'm extremely small in this. People like Father Josiah Trenham, people like Jay Dyer, and all of these individuals who fight for this on the front lines, they get a lot more. But if someone like me can get dozens of messages about people saying, "Oh, I'm a catechumen now, I've been baptized, you know, this Paschal season, etc." It's glorious, and to have your own saints means a lot, and that takes time, and it's been decades in the work for someone like Saint Seraphim of Platina, Jason. But so I'm just overjoyed to have been wrong about how conversions would go.
Well, you know, Jim, you have the Ludwell conference coming up in September, you said.
Yeah.
And part of your work is essentially creating an Orthodox identity in America, specifically in the South for the Ludwell conference. But, you know, there's conversations here in Australia, the same thing, you know, where obviously all the churches have their own distinct flavor. The liturgy remains the same. It's not like, I don't want to get into this, which Orthodox church we're talking about kind of thing.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people are looking forward to that now. I think those conversations are starting now, maybe for the first time in a very long time. ROCOR, of course, has been very open for allowing Americans, non-Russians into the church, and allowing English services, which really do help, because if you don't have the language of the land, a lot of people feel they're not going to start learning Russian just to go to church. But just to touch on what you said, Posh, is that after the events of 2020, after COVID, I think a lot of people started looking around at their churches. They started going back to church because they felt like they needed something, and they went back to church and were like, "Well, why is this empty? Why is this? They need the hospital. They need the substance. And it wasn't there." And so then all of a sudden they started looking around, going, "What's this ancient tradition with all these weird people and all the candles, and why are they bowing so much?"
And beards.
And beards, yeah.
Beards,
But it's happening all over the place,
Yeah, and I think that there is kind of a snowball effect that's going on. To pick up on Posh said, I mean, yes, it's true that America has this, very long. It was essentially a Protestant country for most of its history, and then got a fairly large percentage of Roman Catholics in it, but still basically a Protestant country. But the fact is, I think a lot of Americans are seeing that those are sort of dead ends. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church, the state it's in, the less said, the better, as far as Protestantism going. But, in a sense, we have an awful lot of people that were raised as some kind of Christian, obviously not Orthodox, obviously with a lot of errors mixed in with the truth, but they're not coming from a completely blank slate like a pagan country. Now, to some extent, that often involves unlearning some stuff that they knew or thought they knew when they were in one of the heterodox confessions, but they're not coming to it entirely cold. I mean, I teach a Zoom class for inquirers at actually my old Greek parish up north where I used to attend for almost half a century. And, we got a lot more people. Obviously, most of them tended to be Protestant over the years. We're getting increasing numbers of Roman Catholics now. It used to be a lot of young men coming into the church, and that's still the majority. But now we're starting to see more and more women, both single ones and also families coming in. And as Jason said, like with the Ludwell Conference, there is a base that we're building on, and specifically in the South, for example, there does tend to be kind of a traditional mindset about an organic view of society that is in some ways compatible with an Orthodox mindset. That's why we look at somebody like Philip Ludwell III, the first known Orthodox Christian in the English colonies in the 18th century, as kind of an inspiration for what we're trying to do. But I think each region of the country, based on its own history, its own ethnic composition, is sort of moving in this direction, because for a lot of people, I think they're starting to understand there are no other options. That then, if they're looking for, it was Cardinal Newman who said to be deep into history is to cease to be a Protestant. That's true, but I think then some of them find out to be even deeper in the history is to cease to be a Roman Catholic. And and look, one of the things that inspires me as an American, not of Anglo-Saxon origin, is when I look at the Anglo-Saxon states, the saints of England prior to the Norman Conquest. I like seeing icons of Venerable Bede and of
Alfred
Saint
the Great,
Alfred the Great, Saint King Edward the Boy Martyr, and so forth. I mean, as an American, as somebody who's been acculturated in America for 3 generations, I look at these as, in some ways, my progenitors in the faith, as somebody living in an Anglo-Saxon society, even though I'm not by blood an Anglo-Saxon.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I think there's 2 points there that I think we can pull on. Because I was actually just thinking about this, about Protestants bringing. I shouldn't say bringing Protestantism into Orthodoxy, because that's not accurate. But I think there's this. I'm not sure if it's easier or harder. You know, I was an atheist, an anti-theist for a long time. So coming into the church, I had to get rid of all of that stuff. Um, but I didn't have this. I kind of just adopted things quite quickly, or without too much resistance. I'm like, well, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. Like, let's just go with it, right? Whereas with I don't know how it is for a Protestant, especially in America, having to deal with like icons. I've talked to some people who really had to struggle with icons and getting used to that to unwire themselves, right? It's like and because they come from a form of Christianity, or someone that they would consider a Christian, they have to bring all that stuff in here and know what to peel away and what maybe to essentially keep, not in terms of theology, but like you don't have to abandon community, you don't have to change, abandon, throw everything, the baby out with the bathwater. But I don't know how. Maybe you can talk about that, Jim, because if you're leading catechumens who are Protestant, what's their difficulty like? What's it like for a standard Protestant catechumen, as much as you can talk about it?
It's a mixed bag. I mean, it's like you described. I mean, there are always various issues that come up that they have it's kind of in some cases a hurdle for them. But I think most of the ones we're dealing with, they realize that if this is the direction they need to go, they need to struggle with it and come to understand things that are not necessarily easy for them. But that's part of accepting. For example, one of the things has been mentioned to me with regard to Saint Seraphim is the fact that he was received by chrismation, and you're going to have some people saying, "Oh no, he should have been baptized. He wasn't really Orthodox," and all that kind of stuff. And you get this a lot of times when people are going to convert about, well, are they going to rebaptize me? Are they going to accept my baptism? Or I want to be baptized. And why are they just going to chrismate me? And one of the first things to tell them is, listen, that's not your decision. This is the policy of the diocese or the jurisdiction that we have in the United States.
The bishop gets to decide
that. Yeah,
that.
exactly. One of the first things you need to learn is that it's not about what you want. Because ultimately that's what Protestantism is. What do I want? What do I think the Bible says? Well, I don't agree with you. I'm going to start my own church. Well, if that's your attitude toward, that's the exact opposite of orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is the church has her own way of doing things, and her own doesn't always make sense, but that's orthodoxy. I mean, and that's the way the church has always been. And your first job is to say, you listen to the voice of the church according to the shepherds that have been appointed by the church, and you submit to their judgment. It's not about what you want. And you know what? Ultimately, there's some people who inquire and then they decide, this is not for me. Maybe it isn't. Maybe 10 years from now it will be. Others, yes. They say, well, if I'm in. I have to accept this. It's difficult for me, but I'll make the adjustment, and they do.
Unfortunately, a lot of this thinking is, I'm not saying Western theology-wise, but Western thinking-wise, which is outstandingly Aristotelian, which is part of the legacy of Thomas Aquinas. But the Western response to things like, I can't remember. I apologize. I'm not at my best. It is almost 5 a.m. here. But
drink more ouzo. It'll be better for you. Don't worry.
No, I had a glass. I'm fine. but the response is of the West to have everything being done in a very logistical, very formulaic approach. So that's why you have these candles in the Catholic Church, where they have someone who mispronounces something during a baptism, therefore the baptism is invalid.
Yeah.
This is this theurgic approach, where very pagan, actually, because in paganism, you do things, you perform these rituals, you move a certain way, you speak a certain way, which produces a formulaic result in the end.
Yeah, it's like a spell. Yeah.
Yes, which is
like
not
magical
true.
thinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It works like magic. And
Yeah.
therefore we should have some understanding for the Protestant reaction to
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But that's not the way the Orthodox Church thinks, which means it's not the way the original Church thought, because we don't have this idea. I have been serving as a reader in the Orthodox Church since I was in high school, and sometimes my priest would hurry me up, just and I had to hurry things up. It wasn't that didn't break some type of ritual, because he was supposed to bless, the altar or the gifts or whatever after I had brought him the censer. It's not magic. I'm sorry for people who thought it was, but it's not for the best reasons possible. It's because the way we view things like ex opere operato, which is the whole controversy about how a sinful man can officiate the sacraments. The priest doesn't have magical powers. He doesn't have the indelible character, as the Catholics call it. So even if a priest is defrocked, he can still officiate sacraments and use them for the worst things imaginable. Again, it's not magic. That type of thinking has to go away. That's the Catholic part. The other part is the pseudo-Manichaean thinking of the Protestants, where they think everything is mental activities, and you don't have to do anything, you don't have to think anything other than at a certain point you had to believe Jesus died for you. Now you get to play a harp on a cloud. You don't have to go and get, violated by a half goat man with a trident. And that's about it. I do want to laugh, but
Well, am I also finding out, because I said to Father Peter Hears last week, is that growing up in Montreal, all I knew really religiously was like Roman Catholics and Orthodox, right? There wasn't really many Protestants around.
Based.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they existed. I just didn't know any. And growing up, basically, I just then I became an atheist. So I was like, I just thought they were all loony. And now encountering more and more Protestants, like my exposure to Protestants really were like televangelists, right? So evangelical televangelists on TV. That was my exposure to it. And that's kind of what I always thought that they were. Now I just watched the Jay Dyer. I don't know. Did you see the Jay Dyer debate recently with this pastor? I don't know what his name is.
I did.
Pastor Bob or something.
It was glorious.
Yeah. Whoa. Now I had a bit of a heads up on this world because I got somehow involved in some thing or exchange where it clued into me. I'm like, wait, you think when they say the word was with God, you think that's the Bible? Like, you think the word of God is the Bible, don't you?
Yeah,
that happened to me about a week ago. I'm still dealing with it. And then I saw him. Then I saw the debate yesterday or the last night or the day before. I was like, "This is apparently widespread. They think the word of God is literally like the Bible.
So it's kind of like
in the beginning.
It's kind of like
this is the word of God.
It's kind of like Muslims in the uncreated Quran.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a stone tablet or golden, whatever the hell the material is, in Jannah. That is the Quran.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them, there are multiple versions, and they call them the Ahruf, the Kitab. But there is a version in heaven, and they can't square it, but it doesn't matter. A lot of apologetics on these heterodox Christians and the extra-Christian religions, their apologetics is swatting away doubts. They're not supposed to make sense. They're supposed to maintain a certain equilibrium, and that's it. Jim Bob, Jay Dyer, and I did a stream on dispensationalists.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it wasn't easy. I appreciate your compassion there, Jim. But one thing we talked about was the Word of God. And what I always bring up is when they think the Word of God came to me saying, which we hear about a lot in the Old Testament, is they think either a disembodied voice came to them, you know, they hear some, Ezekiel, so on and so forth. Or they think of, I don't know, papyrus floating about, you know, with inscriptions on it. But I bring up the beginning of Jeremiah, where it says, the word of God came to me, etc., etc., and said, and then he put his finger upon my lips. So unless we're getting into origami with papyrus, we're not talking about disembodied voices or Torah scrolls floating about.
Yeah.
The word of God has always been the Logos, Jesus Christ. Why our liturgical prayers say that the same feet that walk the garden are nailed to the cross.
Or the woman in the hymn of Kassiani embracing the feet from whose sound Eve fled when she heard thee walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these are things which are very normal for us, but the superficiality of Protestantism, even the let's say better ones like High Church Anglicanism, they're better than, you know, Pastor Bob down the street.
Not anymore. Have you met Pastor?
Good point.
Pastor Ellen.
Fair enough.
Or Bishop Ellen.
but
Pastor Roberta. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah,
soft hands. Just
I'd like to, as always, promote Father Stephen DeYoung for any English-speaking audience, because he was on stream with Alex Soren, and he said the question was something about will we rejoin with the Anglicans, because there are Anglicans who reject the filioque and something, but there are Anglicans who do anything. So it's pointless. He says, oh yeah, they're going to, you know, defrock all of the female priests and bishops. No, they're not. There is only one solution, and that's conversion. That's the only path to unification with any currently existing church community. It's not even with the Oriental Orthodox, who didn't go in that direction.
By the way, let's please stop calling them that. I really hate that term, Oriental Orthodox.
Know.
They can call themselves anything they want, but we should not use that term. It's confusing and it's stupid. I mean, I don't mean you, Posh, but I mean, I just say non-Chalcedonian. I mean, and of course, same thing with the Roman Catholics. I mean, that's just a non-starter.
I just do it for the sake of what in linguistics we call communicational economics.
Non-Chalcedonian. That'll do fine.
We were in communion with Rome for 500 years longer than we were with the Oriental Orthodox, so-called.
You did it again.
Monophysites?
Yeah, again, that's
non-Chalcedonians. Yes.
Right, but if you want to take the language of it, people would think we and the Ethiopians and the Copts and Armenians or whoever.
Well, I think Oriental Orthodox, that expression adds to the confusion. It makes us sound like we're all part of the same operation.
You should see me. I'm a linguist by trade.
Yeah.
I have tried so hard to talk about why you have Eastern Orthodox, Western Catholic, or Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholic, and having to explain, no, listen, these are just tags people try to use to point to a certain group of communions, and nope, won't work. People just get the geography of it. Doesn't help when it's Americans, and the worst enemy of America has always been geography, even worse than the British or Mexico.
Point to Coptic on the map. I dare you. Where's Coptic?
Where is Coptia?
I remember back to the Anglicans. I remember years ago, one Anglican writer was lauding the Anglican doctrinal flexibility. He said the nice thing about Anglicanism is that nobody from the Pope to Mao Zedong can say with any degree of certainty that he is not an Anglican.
Exactly. Metropolitan. Oh goodness. What was his name? Very famous Metropolitan.
Callistus Ware.
Callistus Ware of blessed memory.
Mm-hmm.
He said he knew an Anglican. I'm not sure if it was a bishop or a vicar, or not sure, but he said he told me that he knew orthodoxy was true, but that his calling was to do as much as he could within the Anglican Church. Now, this was decades ago.
I've heard similar things too. Yeah.
No, Father Callistus Ware said this outright. It's not me interpreting, something he said.
No. What I'm saying is, I've heard other. I think I've heard even other Anglicans down here in Australia saying similar things, where they understand that their church has systematic problems. Right. Orthodoxy is true, but they're not willing to leave Anglicanism.
They think they're doing more good.
And
Orthodoxy into the Anglican Church.
And they have crypto-Roman Catholics too. I mean, that's the thing. And they have crypto Baptists. I mean, that's the thing. They have such a wide array of people within the same communion that don't belong in the same church together, but that defines what Anglicanism is.
Yeah.
It's sad, really. Yeah.
It's extraordinarily sad because Anglicanism, and by the way, most of Protestantism is exactly what Protestants accuse Orthodoxy of being, like a national church. The Church of Sweden.
Religion.
Well, and by the way, that's very true when it comes to the non-Chalcedonians. I mean, it's normal. I mean, the Roman Catholics say you're not a single church because you don't have a pope, a unified structure. But unlike the non-Chalcedonians, you'll never find a Coptic and Armenian church, or vice versa. Whereas, Greeks, Serbs, Russians, Romanians. I mean, we go to the same church, each other's churches. I mean, it's not nothing to anybody. I mean, we are one church, and nobody thinks twice about it.
Yes, we have our sensibilities, but that's just habituation. But I obviously, if I went to a Greek church and they had pews, I would make a thing about it.
Well, hey, and I won't make a thing of the fact that nobody in Serbia actually gets baptized; they get sprinkled.
Yes.
I mean, which
is this true?
That really rots my socks. But hey, I know
people don't understand.
Yeah,
people don't understand that during communism, a lot of our natural bodies of water were poisoned.
Oh, was that it?
I wouldn't send actually my worst enemy to the river of my city. So the way people deal with it is, if you haven't got a natural body of water, and all of our churches are ancient, you're not just going to build like a baptismal font.
In America, Well, here we use horse troughs.
Well,
No,
God
seriously,
bless you.
that's the typical thing in a convert-heavy parish, is that you get a horse trough at the agricultural store and you baptize people in that.
We haven't got any of those.
Of course you do. You have horses, don't you?
Gypsies have horses here. I'm not joking. You think I'm joking, but
we'll find a gypsy and get a horse trough on him.
I love how Posh looked. Posh looked both surprised and insulted at the same time.
No.
Horses.
Yeah, gypsies are the ones who have horses. Like, I understand over there in North America and maybe over there in Australia, the people with the horses are the rich people. That's not the case here. But no, I'm very serious. Like, the reason a lot of it has gone from immersion to, and I understand baptism etymologically means submersion.
Or immersion, at least, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes, immersion. But it's, again, not magic. It's not like being dipped in the river Styx, where, you miss a spot and there you go, your heel is going to hell. But the reason in Serbia you don't get a lot of that is through the decades of communism, no one cares about anything, obviously, but you're not just going to go to a polluted river and dunk people.
But nobody in any country that I know of primarily gets baptized in rivers. They get baptized in church, and even if you don't have an adult baptistry, you bring in a small pool or a bucket or something. You at least make do.
I understand.
Here's my problem, Posh. I don't mean it so much as a criticism, but when something, and like my younger daughter was baptized by sprinkling in a hospital bed because they saw she was going to die, right? So she was not immersed. But that, that's what you do as an economia when it's not possible. Yes. And when the economia becomes regular and nobody thinks anything about it, then you're talking about a liturgical abuse.
I actually agree with you, Jim.
Yeah.
I agree with you. When you look at the Serbian Orthodox Church near the, like in Montenegro, they just go into the sea.
Oh, that's good.
And no one has a problem with it. The difference is, basically, no one here would get baptized as an adult. I was baptized by immersion on my first birthday. I could fit in a sink.
That's the other thing. I've noticed that one of the issues with the Serbs is that they're not baptizing infants at a younger age like most people do. Like when they're 8 weeks old or 2 months old, they're baptizing them when they're 1 or 2 years old, and they're not really that small anymore.
In my defense, it was 95, and the wars were on, so it was less an issue of 40 days.
Are you from Bosnia?
No, I'm from southern Serbia.
Oh, that's right.
I'm near Kosovo. So things were fun in the 90s. But it's that the mentality isn't accommodated to adults getting baptized. So the facilities and the church I'm from, St. Procopius, is from the 9th century. You don't get, room for building a font. Posh, he is right. Even churches that have baptism pools. Really, Georgia? That's a Serbian name. That's George, but Serbian.
I know. Means farmer.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. But I'm against that. I'm not trying to be defensive of it.
Well,
I'm saying have understanding for the fact that
I do.
Over here, people just don't. But it's not magic. Like it's not the river Styx, or rather the inverse of the river Styx, like the water of life. So most people who get baptized are baptized by immersion because they were babies. And in places like America, where you get a lot of grown-up converts, I'm not even saying adult, I'm saying like 12-year-olds.
Actually, it's interesting. At the last Ludwell conference, we had about 200 people there, and I didn't ask the question how many converts versus how many were born Orthodox. I asked how many people here belong to one of the traditional Orthodox ethnic groups, Greek, Serbian, Russian, etc. Out of 200 people, 7 hands went up, and 2 of them were me.
Goodness, that's glorious.
And 2 of them were me and my daughter. So, I mean, because now we have a lot of people who are Americans who are not converts. They're children and grandchildren of converts. They're born Orthodox Christians, but they're ethnic Americans. They're not Greeks or Serbians or Romanians or whatever.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, there has been the massive change. I think just recently, I forget who said it, but that Orthodoxy is now changing from an ethnic church to an evangelical church, like to an a church that's now beginning to promote, to
evangelize. I mean, we can use the word
evangelize.
It's really our word to tell the truth.
True, but I mean, we're talking about Protestants, so it's an action-packed word there, Jim.
I know that.
But if the elder says it's fine, it's fine. I take my cues from the elder Jatras. Since we're moving in that direction, certainly, we're of course we're seeing the massive numbers. I mean, with Father Josiah Trenham just I think put out that he's had over 200. I think he's now has over 200 catechumens coming in. There was another report out of Wales. In England, saying one church there, an Orthodox church there, brought in about I think something close to that as well, over 200 catechumens in a single year. It's massive, which brings up the question really especially for the West is do we have the infrastructure, and that brings up also the concern is that. While it's wondrous that we're having this many people coming home, do we have the infrastructure? The answer is, of course, no. And then I guess the concern is rushing priesthood, because I mean that's the one of the major infrastructure units we're missing. Is top clergy, priests, deacons, subdeacons, and all the rest of it. And that again, that takes time or should take time.
I think we can safely say we're going to do a bad job of handling this. I mean, that's just the way we tend to do things. And you talk about the concern that we're rushing priesthood. That is a concern. The flip side of that is the concern, which I think, unfortunately, will be the answer to the question, is that we won't have enough priests because we'll stick with this seminary model borrowed from the West that clergy need to be academics. They need to be scholars rather than pastors. And rather than having a parish-based program where you have young men who are suitable for the priesthood and the diaconate that are given the requisite education and the liturgical training and made priests, they'll say, no. You have to basically spend thousands and thousands of dollars and years going to seminary and learning how to be a scholar, learning how to be an academic. And that's going to be a bottleneck. In other words, I'm not worried about rushing priests who are not prepared. I'm worried about the opposite, that we're gonna have a crashing shortage of priests because we're going to retain the same model we've had for decades when we were this tiny little ethnic community.
What I'm optimistic about is that the exact thing that distinguishes us from the West is that we're not legalists. That is a danger, obviously, but we have a tradition of bishops, sort of saying, who cares? Just appoint a bunch of people who hopefully will be appropriate. But it's a good problem to have, to be honest, to have so many converts. And it can be botched, but let's hope not. God willing. But I think it's more positive than not.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because elderly bishops, especially, they're not, clued into this whole sensitivity thing. They will tend to just do things, and they will respond to demand. So I hope, I'm not sure what the bishops are like in North America, but hopefully they will find a proper response for it, because it would be the biggest waste imaginable not to go for this huge wave of people coming in.
We have an element of bureaucracy, of institutionalism,
Obviously.
of administrative, what's the word I want? Inflexibility, where you have chanceries in the various jurisdictions, you have staff people that tend to run things. It's going to be a challenge for us, and I don't know how it's going to work out, to tell the truth. I think we'll stumble through it, basically.
Yeah, but let's always place our bets on the Slavic bishops, because we are so pig-headed, we can't bear any of that. The reason most of Orthodox people in the world are, on the old calendar, is because people like us and the Russians, also the Georgians, they're not Slavic, but we just refuse to become modern. But so there is hope in that, with the organizations like Go Arch and similar ones. I don't know what to do. I understand. I understand. So that's why I'm saying the pig-headedness of us Slavs is the best hope we've got.
Well, just to bring it back to Father Seraphim Rose, of course, he wrote the books Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, which is now getting touted around quite a bit. Some new news out of America, and thank you, WW711, for the five gifted memberships. Oh, and thank you to KLW. Big $10. Of course, you can always support the show, folks, any way, which way you can. You can send it over on here on YouTube, or send it over on Streamlabs, or send it over on PayPal, or whichever way you like. You can buy me a coffee over buymeacoffee.com. Keep the lights on over Mironchuck household. Of course, I'm here in Australia, where things are getting more and more expensive every day. It's wild.
Oh goodness!
But
when we get to geopolitics, your country's going.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get there. This is the bridge. We're going to do this, then we're going to get into geopolitics, folks. So here's some news. Pastors across the United States are now stepping forward and revealing they were briefed in a secret meeting with government officials about how to reveal the existence of aliens to their congregation. They are prepared to tell us they are from another dimension and that they are our creators. Go and tell the church they are not ready for what is happening. Of course, Father Seraphim Rose, famously in the book Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, and Father Spearden Bailey also wrote the UFO Delusion. It's almost an extension of Father Seraphim's, Saint Seraphim. I got to get used to saying Saint Seraphim. Saint Seraphim's chapter in here, talking specifically about UFOs and demonology connected to it, and how the religion of the future is going to start using these events to start to deceive. This is like the first volley, and it's good for us to know exactly how much later it is than we think. A lot of talks about eschatology, the eschaton, and exactly where we are in terms of end times, and this is the end of end times, or is it sort of a dry run, a little precursor for what's coming ahead. But it certainly seems like they're going to give it a go. They were hinting at this about a year or two ago, and I was like, maybe not. Let's see if they do it. And then Obama comes out and says he's seen aliens, and Trump, of course, is releasing all these files now, and now they're contacting pastors all across the United States Gentlemen, what do we think about UFOs in this in the year of our Lord 2026? Jim,
I'll go first. So
you get to live long enough, Jim, to see little green men.
I was going to say
it's like the Jetsons, but you know,
the government that brought us the pandemic and is hiding the Epstein files is now going to level with us about the little green men, and they're going to enlist a bunch of pastors to be the transmission belt for a psyops. You know, I obviously tend to agree with Father Saint Seraphim regarding the demonic nature of a lot of UFO phenomena. I think some of the phenomena could be attributable to various government actions, technologies, and things that they're net leveling about. But one way or the other, I think the revelation that there really are aliens is designed for some kind of manipulation of the population for various reasons. As I say, whether it's losing a war in Iran or the Epstein files or whatever else these idiots have up their sleeves. And there will be a lot of gullible pastors that probably are theologically unsound to start with, that are going to embrace the notion that there's intelligent life on other planets, even if the evidence is not there.
I'd say definitionally unsound theologically.
Yeah, exactly.
But another thing I would say is I'm not so worried about there being some major disclosure or some Project Bluebeam. I've done a lot of talking about abiogenesis, the existence of the origination of life from non-life. And they can't explain it here on Earth. And kicking it over to some type of directed panspermia or whatever they want to call it, it's not going to work for me. Again, I'm very interested in it. I'm not saying I'm so smart or intelligent or something of the sort that I'm immune to it. I'm saying they're really relying on people not doing anything and panicking. And the push to some type of alien technology or alien visitations or alien whatever seems to me to be, as you said, something much more to do with distracting from current horrible circumstances, rather than trying to introduce a new type of play on the populace with some type of fake alien invasion. I think the war in Iran is going to create much more harm than any type of false flag or whatever they want to do, because it's affecting so many things on a global level that it's not Project Bluebeam to make us think Jesus is coming back with projections into the sky. I think it's more of a panicked response to something that's not going to end well, and is en route to cause incredible harm.
We'll see. I mean, if we go also to the Orthodox predictions by St. Paesos and others of the World War III predictions, which we covered, Jim, with Conrad from World War Now and a few others. I mean, there's some of these things are unavoidable. Like things are happening that no one can really stop. Russia going to war with Turkey. Jim and I spent basically all last year talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, which we can get to some notes there. At the end of it, basically, Jim and I kind of reached the conclusion that it's like, this doesn't make sense, right? Why isn't Russia decapitating? Why isn't Russia doing the thing that you would normally do in a wartime situation, especially one that is existential for Russia? Seems all those things fit. And it's at some point, like, why are they holding back? Why are they holding off? Is it just to crush them like they did with Chechnya, to break Ukraine and break Ukrainian nationalism? That's, I think, a very good possibility. Are they involved in something else, though?
Sorry, if you...
No, go ahead. I mean, because also what it was kind of looking like, especially from the Ukrainian side, but Russia's certainly playing its part, is this is looking like a mass human sacrifice ritual, where they're just getting rid of as many people as possible to bring in the new Ukrainians. The lost tribe of Ukrainians in Kenya. So, that's it. We laugh, but they're doing it.
Yes.
And it's all the brochures. Have you seen the new brochures of the Ukrainian farmers?
The young men will be replaced.
Don't look like me suddenly, like a lot more swarthy than I remember my uncles looking. But
But the thing is, from the Russian side, why Russia wouldn't do decapitation strikes is that Russia is looking to neutralize a threat. They're not looking to gain some visible, PR victory. So killing Zelensky would change nothing because he's just there to, slap his penis on a piano.
But killing Zelensky would change nothing. But killing the entire presidential administration, the SBU, military intelligence, the Rada, the entire
something like that, yes.
Yes, but they don't do that, you notice.
I have noticed.
They don't blow up bridges.
Yeah,
they don't take out major
no.
energy
That
infrastructure.
Is what you would do, and I think that's what Russia would do if the war expanded into Europe proper.
But that's the best way to that's the best way to keep it from expanding. I'll tell you, Posh. I mean, the only explanation I can see, aside from the one that Jason posited, is that the Russians expect still somebody to make a deal with them. That
I unfortunately think that is the case.
Yeah.
I think it's fruitless.
Which means they don't understand their opponent. They still think in terms of classic statecraft, and they're dealing with a bunch of lunatics.
That's my view of what is happening. I think it's wrong.
Yeah,
you're not going to get anything from the US. You're not going to get it from Europe, especially. Europe is just a basket.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. It's like if anyone here wants to see how poorly Trump is doing in the polls, look at the polls of European leaders. Because I
think Starmer's still at 18%. I think Starmer's still at 18% and falling.
I think that's too high, actually.
How's Mr. Vucic polling?
Oh, that doesn't matter. He's there on the behest of his European masters.
I know.
I bet you do. But actually, they've been threatening to pull his funding because he's been doing some things that were too problematic even for them to defend around the judiciary. But European leaders are all sub 20%, like Macron, Merz, Starmer. They're all under 20%.
Macron just announced that he's taking his managed wife with him at the end of his term, I think, which is next 2028, I think, somewhere around there, and not running again.
He's had 5, I think, if I might be wrong, but at least 5 collapses of government. That doesn't matter. There's no honor, there's no nothing. He is there to complete a task on behalf of his master. And he is doing that. And that's why you'd think once or twice, okay, 5 times your government collapsed and you're still refusing to abdicate the throne. It doesn't matter. None of this, it's all theater.
Mhm.
for the most part. Unfortunately, I'm a monarchist. Because I think then you would have someone. You would have someone.
You're going to have to explain this at some point, Posh.
It's a Serbian nationalist salute regarding the Trinity and everything. But in Greece, you will still see people hold a salute with the connected fingers.
Yeah.
That we had from the 90s.
In Serbia, when you take an oath, how do you hold your hand? Like this?
I haven't taken an oath in Serbia.
No, in Greece, when they take an oath, like when you're enlisted in the army, you hold your hand like this.
Yeah. That I was referencing that earlier,
Yeah.
but I didn't. We were communist, Jim. I regret to
Well,
inform
I mean now.
No such thing has survived. It used to be the case, but after communism, everything has been formalized into paperwork, and you know what.
I've seen pictures in Russia before the revolution. They also did this when taking oaths.
You can find pictures of Serbia from the First World War and Second World War, but no, that didn't survive communism. So the bureaucracy has not accepted it. But you know, I forget where we were. Back to this discussion.
Macron
yes.
and his
Right.
husband.
So they're clinging on. They're clinging on because they have masters to serve, and their masters are telling them to support the Ukraine war. In the last couple of days, we've had Trump being outstandingly upset with Merz in Germany, and apparently 5,000 U.S. troops are being pulled from Germany. I'm not sure.
Now the threat is to Italy as well.
Oh yeah, terrible threat.
Yeah, but they'll send him to Poland though instead.
Very likely, but the problem is that you are the entire excuse for having so many troops there is that they're there to stop Russia, and the narratives around this war have been I've been ranting about this for years now. Russia is both outstandingly incompetent. They can't do anything. They can barely take any portion of Ukraine. And at the same time, if we don't stop them there, they'll be in Paris in a fortnight. Which is interesting.
It's
right.
It's Schroeder's Russia. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. And Putin is both a godless fiend and a religious fanatic. And
Russia's always losing the war. They've been losing the entire time, losing millions of people, decimated.
Yes. And they've nothing also left but shovels.
Right. And also about to like you said, about to take over Europe militarily.
Yes. Because the intent of the propaganda isn't to make sense of anything. The intent of the propaganda is to get you. You think Russia is dangerous? Yeah, they're dangerous. Oh, you think Russia is feeble? Oh, yeah, they're feeble. Doesn't matter. It's just supposed to click with as many people as possible. You're building a coalition of sorts. So the rhetoric doesn't matter. Russia has also been in these last times, they've been building or producing rather more ammunitions than they're using, which indicates that they're preparing for a conflict that isn't the current one. If they were Turkey, could be NATO.
I would rather that they, back to our earlier discussion, they finish this conflict and try to avoid that conflict rather than drag this
I would too.
out and prepare for a conflict. By the way, just briefly back to France and being a fellow monarchist, I noticed that last year Louis de Bourbon, who styles himself Louis the 20th, announced that he's ready to serve France is in a state where it needs his help. So we can pray for that.
C'est pas bon, c'est en retour.
Son nom, mais lui, ses chances sont bons.
Stinks in here even more so than when I left. Come on, clean up the palace.
But let's be honest. What I said in French was, if his name is Louis, his chances are decent. Let's be honest.
They already have 5 names. It's like Louis Renaud,
Henri,
Richard, and Guillaume.
Guillaume is always a favorite of mine.
William.
A bit Belgian, a bit Belgian-y though. Guillaume is like
but if we're speaking in English, so we have to give credits to William the Conqueror or William the Bastard, depending on how you
let's go with bastard.
Depends on your view of it.
Bastard.
So it's a stance-dependent view.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I was bringing up Viktor Orban since we're talking geopolitics now.
I unplugged myself.
Last time we talked, Jim, we brought up Hungary, and the scuttlebutt was the possibility. The only reason I brought it up was it was an interesting narrative. I didn't know, I didn't really particularly want to bet on anything there. But part of the narrative was that it was all one big ruse. That the new Hungarian president was
even
actually
more right wing.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was, gonna surprise everyone. And of course, within I think the week after we talked, they now have the first LGBT, this first Skittles TV, cable show. Funding is now going again to, all the European progressive causes.
They sang the Gypsy anthem along with after the Hungarian anthem.
Lovely.
And you have to understand that for Europeans, at least Eastern Europeans, the Gypsies are as close as you would get to like African Americans in the United States, because they're the
lower thing.
Because they are our visible minority.
Our shame.
We don't get a lot of minorities because we're too poor to attract the other minorities, except maybe the Chinese, but that's a different, calculus. Like for example, in Serbia, because we were part of Yugoslavia, you had affirmative action for Gypsies attending university decades before any of you, conservative Nazis had come to the realization you should give affirmative action.
But they don't send their kids to school, do they? I mean, it's
of course not, and the ones they do send go horribly because
they do when they want them to steal pencils. I mean,
lots of things.
No, they do have. Don't they have a monopoly on the trash collection in Belgrade?
I can't answer that.
I think they do. I think they run the whole operation.
I sincerely doubt that.
Sorry. Wait. There's a Serbian gypsy trash mafia. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Right.
That's what I'm hearing. But
the trash panda mafia.
Well, it's actually pretty lucrative, and plus, means you get all the recycling and all the secondhand stuff, and there's money in it.
Even in my city, there's a Belgrade-based firm for trash collection that's settled in. I'm not sure about the ethnicity of the owners. It would be so funny that they weren't like the Kippa people.
and also like
the Gypsies.
Like all the musicians.
I can see how it gets.
Are gypsies too, right?
Sorry?
All the gypsies, all the musicians on Skadarlia are gypsies too, aren't they?
Yeah. So in Serbia, gypsies, I assume this is most of Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
They either play music,
Hmm.
they beg, or they steal because they don't want to integrate.
Sometimes they do all three at the same time.
Very, very possible. But you know, they don't want to integrate. It's a European phenomenon, not a Serbian phenomenon.
Sure.
And they do incest and stuff and all sorts of.
They're not known
things.
for known for violent crime, though, are they?
No, they would. They steal, but they don't. You know, mug you.
Rob. Yeah. Okay.
They sort of pickpocket and things like that. They're not violent.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
I have to say, you know, but they tend to live in a secluded part of a city, and they do their trades. But how did we get
Well,
here?
Some of the gypsy trash mafia.
I love how we were on about the Ukrainians.
no, actually, we started with Louis de Bourbon, the 20th, and somehow we got into gypsies. I don't see the connection.
Yes, that's.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to Russia, Ukraine for a second. This has just been. This was just announced. This is attached to Russia declaring the Victory Day parades from May 8th to 9th this year. So this is Russian MFA. In accordance to the decision of Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, a ceasefire is declared on 8th to 9th of May 2026 in honor of the celebration of the victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War. We expect the Ukrainian side to follow this example. At the same time, we've taken note of the statement made by the head of Kiev regime in Yerevan at the European Political Community Summit, which contains threats to strike Moscow on 9th of May. The armed forces of the Russian Federation will take all necessary measures to ensure the safety of the festive events. Should the Kiev regime attempt to carry out its criminal plans aimed at disrupting the celebration of the 81st anniversary of the victory of the Great Patriotic War of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, do that in one breath. The armed forces of the Russian Federation will launch a retaliatory, massive missile strike on the center of Kiev. Despite the capabilities at its disposal, Russia has previously refrained from such actions for humanitarian reasons. We warn the civilian population of Kiev and the staff of foreign diplomatic missions to leave the city in a timely manner. Thank you for your attention. Oh, and let me say that in Russian.
To this matter?
So, for this matter, yes. So, we've heard stuff.
This was an issue last year as well. This isn't new.
It was, but the declaration to launch retaliatory massive missile strikes on the center of Kiev, now that's new.
Yes,
I think that's what's getting some eyebrows.
I think that's the attempt to maintain the status quo, as bad as it is, like saying, "Listen, we will do things as we did last year. Don't get smart." That's how I read it. But I'm happy to hear your interpretation.
Well, I think the specificity of the center of Kiev is designed to give it more credibility as a retaliatory threat than Russia deserves based on its lack of follow-through on previous threats of retaliation. So I think they're trying to make it sound even more threatening this time, and we really mean it by saying something more specific. And maybe they mean it, maybe they don't. But then that begs the question, based on our earlier discussion, if they truly were trying to win the war militarily rather than use it militarily pedagogically to achieve a deal, why haven't they done this a long time ago? Why have they said the Kiev regime is defunct now? We are destroying the command and control structure of the Kiev regime. The reason is, again, they wanted there was something. Where did I see something not too long ago? I think it was on Moon of Alabama. It's a pretty good site, by the way. Looking at all the indications that Moscow is still thinking they can make a deal with Trump.
That's
we're
what
still talking about the spirit of Anchorage. I mean, it just, and they talk to these two shysters from New York like they were some kind of diplomats or something.
Yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And have been discredited even further
In Iran,
in the Iran
Yeah.
negotiations.
Yeah.
Because it's been, I remember, Jim, you might know about Judge Napolitano.
Sure.
And the people he has on regularly. He has a roster of people he has on. But a lot of them were defending the approach very, not now. They've given up, as they should, saying, well, they might not be the official, the official channels of diplomacy, but they have the ear of the president. So you could defend that.
Yeah.
Last year, I had given up. I had to given up on them a long time ago, before Iran. But you could think the story was Rubio was someone Trump was forced to accept into his cabinet, so he doesn't trust him because he's too neocon. But now, so he had to, go to people like Kushner and Witkoff. Turns out, no difference between the two. You can put a cigarette paper between Rubio and Witkoff and Kushner. Even worse, that he has familial relations with Kushner and regular economic relations with Witkoff as a fellow magnate in New York real estate.
Well, Jim, you've been inside the belly of the beast. So tell us how this works. The way I read it, you can take any of these guys, right? They're interchangeable. Witkoff, Rubio, anyone, right? I look at them as the frontmen. They're just the attaches, the guy, the bagmen who are sent with the plan that was cooked up in the back somewhere. They're given the script and they go out and they read it, right? Like this. I'm sure that they're bringing some negotiation skills to the table when they sit on a negotiation table, whichever those skills may be. But I don't think the plan, the overall what would you call it, the mission statement for their negotiations is cooked up by any of them. Like this is something that's handed to them, and they're just the guy who has to sit at the table. How does this work from your experience? Working with the Senate in terms of gathering and presenting information, or your experience with negotiations and diplomacy?
Especially with regard to the Russians, there is always a dilemma between working through the channels, working through institutions, and talking to the guy who has the president's ear. For example, it was always an issue back even in the Soviet times. Do we have an ambassador in Moscow who is a personal friend of the president? We know that can get the president on the phone, as opposed to a State Department professional who may know his job, but he's doesn't have a direct line to the president. And it actually makes some sense, as Posh pointed out, that, hey, if these guys have the president's ear and he's a venal, transactional guy who wants to make a deal, do business, maybe these are the guys to talk to. Hey, Vladdy, baby, we can exploit the Arctic together. We'll make a lot of money. Hey, just think of the tax write-off. I mean, that's the way, maybe these guys would be talking to the Russians, and you got this guy, Dmitriev, who's the head of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Maybe they figure, hey, this is the key to Trump's heart, if not his brain, or his pocketbook, because we know these guys are making money hand over fist, in this administration. The whole corrupt family is making Hunter Biden look like the Better Business Bureau.
Unbelievable.
So it's unbelievable. So maybe they figure this is the way to go. But then, as Posh pointed out, if not long before, but certainly by the Iran episode, you get to the point where you say, not just these two characters, but Trump himself and the whole damn U.S. government is so dysfunctional. There's simply no way to make a deal with these people, certainly no deal that they will abide by the terms of. That should have been evident to them a long time ago. So actually, I do disagree with Jason. No, this is not like if a bunch of guys from the State Department, professionals who at least know their job, know the issues, know how to, address the issues with their counterparts, they would go there, like you say, to some degree scripted, and saying this is what we can offer, this is what we can't offer, and that has precious little running room with the United States anyway. But these two guys, no, I don't think they were scripted at all. They're going over there talking about their venal monetary interests and those of the Trump family, and hoping that that's the hook they can reel the Russians in on another deal like Minsk.
I think I did a stream on this 2 weeks ago, I think. And because people were saying that the Iran expedition was an expedition to rearrange the entire world back to the US, who has been losing influence around the world. I said, I haven't seen any steps that would allow America to do these things being made, like rare earth minerals. I've not seen a source. Most of the world's rare earth minerals are sourced from China. Over 90% are refined and processed in China. I haven't seen any preparations for that. I haven't seen any major build-up. People were saying, "Oh, Venezuela, that was a move to get more oil running." It's the worst quality of oil.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with oil. It's not about oil. It's about trade routes. Trump can call it. We'll just say Trump, right? Because it's not. I don't think it's Trump, by the way.
How is it about trade routes?
Panama Canal. They just signed.
We don't need Venezuela for the Panama Canal.
Yeah. No. I'm saying, like, if you could go down a list of the acquisitions Trump's been making, they're almost all trade routes. They just signed a military agreement with Indonesia to secure the Indonesian water space, because Indonesia and Australia can't seem to can't figure things out.
Of course they can't.
You now have a Strait of Hormuz. You have which other ones I'm talking about? Which other ones are on the table? Greenland, which would seal the Northern Passage.
Again, that doesn't make any sense either. I mean, Venezuela has nothing to do with trade routes. Greenland, they say, oh, that's to interdict the Northeast trade route. The northern trade route, I think that comes right through the Bering Strait. We don't need Greenland to interdict that.
What I'm saying, Jim, is systematically, and again, why they're doing this, we can speculate, right? We're gonna get into speculation here, which we try to avoid. But what else we have?
Well, no,
systematically, they've been trying to seize up, lock down, acquire, or in whatever way possible, militarize trade routes.
Yeah, and that's where you get all the talk about.
It's pretty systematic.
Well, that's where you get all the talk about South China Sea. We talk about sea lanes open. Actually, we're the ones who want to be interdict sea lanes, and that's what you're saying about the Strait of Malacca, or in Trump's case, we say the Strait Jacket of Malacca would be more appropriate.
I was going to say, when a Greek says it, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. But I mean, look, even though Venezuela's oil is not of the best quality, they were exporting some of it to China. I think that Trump said it in so many words. We're pirates now. We're pirates.
Yeah.
We want to maintain our dominion over the world by shaking everybody down and force them to give us their resources. We got to secure the oil. It's all about the oil. We got to secure the oil. It's got to be done. You know,
I honestly,
and look,
I think a lot of that is.
I don't think it's either or.
I think
trade routes and resources, they're both resources. Basically, we want to shake everybody down, threaten everybody's access to resources, and say we control them now. You don't.
Well, there's also something else to consider. Sorry, Posh, just real quickly. I got tons of crap, tons and tons of crap. We're going on Matt Erickson's show and a few others right before the election, about 2-3 months before the election, saying that Trump is being installed. That the election doesn't really matter. And this is like I was saying just right after the assassination attempt didn't work. And I was saying that the groups they're installing him.
I think it worked just fine. It got him into the White House, right?
Well, there's two major groups that are behind installing him, which is the Carlyle Group and Texas Oil.
Right.
And if you start to factor in, who's the Carlyle Group? Well, other than missile defense and all the other things they're involved with, they're private equity. They're a private equity group. If you look at a lot of the major decisions that the Trump administration has been doing and not really announcing to the whole world and not making a big deal about, private equity is now being allowed. They waived the rules saying that private equity can now get involved in retirement funds for the first time. Private equity plans their moves out 5, 10, 15, 20 some odd years in advance, right? They have a lot of liquid money, but then when they invest, they want to invest in long term, right? That's generally how they move. What's the best way of ensuring your costs? What's the best way to lock up your costs and ensure you have a steady investment? Take over energy costs. Become now the world decider on energy costs and trade routes. That's Carlyle Group. When we get into oil, especially Alberta, that's Texas Oil. Okay. It was all laid out in Trump's.
Jason, I don't think we're disagreeing here. I don't think we're disagreeing here. It's not an argument between resources and trade routes. We're basically like saying we're pirates. We're going to grab the trade routes. We're going to grab the resources. We're going to turn all the financial industry pirates loose to do whatever the hell they want. I mean, Trump is trying to save the global American empire, which is basically run by a bunch of criminals, the Epstein class. And that means stealing everything that everybody else has, threatening all the access to resources that everybody else has, and telling all the money boys, the world is your oyster. Do whatever you want.
That's certainly one way of looking at it. There's other narratives you can spin about it, but regardless of the narrative that you want they're favorable. Like, and I'll just say this. Sorry, Posh, I'll throw it to you. People really don't understand this about me and what I talk about, right? Because I'll have Tom Luongo on, I'll have Jim. Everyone can give their narrative. I don't care, right? The narrative to me doesn't matter. It's an interesting story. We can all tell. I only care about the data, and I don't. And the other thing is, I'm so neutral on Donald Trump and all these figures. I don't think people get that with me. I don't care. I don't care about Donald Trump. I don't care about his moral character or his lack of Christianity or his meme about Jesus. I don't care. I don't care about any of it. All I care about is figuring out where all this data is connecting to and what's the most likely thing to do next. That's it. So, I'm just putting that out there because I know whenever we get into these kind of conversations, we're going to get these comments, right? And you can comment away, folks. Tell me all how you feel. I love hearing how you feel. Just know a lot of those things just bounce off me because I don't crap. I don't care.
That's right. You don't F with the Jesus.
No, don't ever F with the Jesus. No, with the Jesus. No, never.
But
I made a promise to my spiritual father I would not swear on these shows. I'm not smoking, drinking, or swearing on these shows.
That was a big Lebowski reference.
Sometimes, I know, sometimes it's hard though, my friends, because I want to say these things.
My spiritual father hasn't got a problem with it.
Yes, but he's Serbian. He's Slavic. It's a cultural thing. I tried to explain this one time. It didn't work.
He's not one of you fake
Posh,
orthodox. But I could understand the way you're talking about these things in the direction it's supposed to be going. But the execution has been less than satisfactory. I've in that stream I made, I said I can't understand this Iranian expedition in any light other than you failed in your uprising. Like people in Tehran were supposed to, rise up and overthrow the government, and everything was supposed to collapse. And we had that episode of the slaughter of the rebellion, and depending on whom you ask, it's hundreds of thousands. I'm exaggerating, but they say over 60,000 people by some accounts. By Iranian accounts, around 3,000 people were killed. But what we know, what preceded that event, was that about 40,000 Starlink terminals were discovered, and with the help of either or both the Chinese and the Russians were extinguished. Because the point of having the Starlink terminals and the connectivity established by them was to bypass the Iranian internal ability to quash any foreign influence or internet access, whatever you want to call it. But it failed. And how I see this is that, one, Habibi Netanyahu is in very dire straits, and he has to show something for his tenure, which he can't. Because he wasn't very successful even in Gaza, where I think that's a genocide. But whatever you want to call it, I'm not picky about terms. He is very aggressive in the West Bank, including with Christian settlements. He is now expanding the war into southern Lebanon and not doing well at all, even there, because, and I think Bibi is an extraordinarily talented politician. So what I see is desperate flailing on his end. And he drew...
Bibi's cooked because Likud's cooked.
Yes, and Israel isn't ruled by Likud. It's ruled by a coalition, including the Likud, for a lot of whom are much more extreme than Likud.
Yeah, like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, those guys.
Yes, Itmar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel, Smotrich.
I think it's pronounced Beelzebub.
Fair enough. But Beelzebub, Smotrich, that he can't make the wily decisions he would have made. he had to compromise with the other members of the coalition because he is under investigation for obvious, very, very obvious corruption charge. So no one is disputing that. Even
Yeah.
Trump, when he was appealing for
Pardon.
pardons, he says, "I gave him cigarettes." You just don't get to do that.
Well, I think we have to throw into it too, aside from whatever, let's say, systemic or strategic interests lie behind American behavior generally. Trump brings his own special sauce of crazy to the table in terms of his lack of discipline and, frankly, his corruption. I think is increasingly obvious. Mental illness and the fact that I don't think it's just what's her name. What's her name?
Marge
the
Taylor
one
Greene.
No. The one who gave him all the money, Mary Matelson. I don't think it's just the money, and I don't think it's even just the Epstein stuff either, which I think is another lever. I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if Bibi has told him in so many words, listen, all the other presidents wouldn't do what we wanted them to do. You're going to do it, or you're going to end up like Jack and Bobby. I wouldn't be at all
yes,
maybe.
I think so too.
But hang on. But let's throw this little monkey wrench in the narrative. Trump has been talking about Trump has been concerned about nuclear weapons in Iran going on for decades now. Long before he ran for president, going all the way back into the 80s and 90s, he's been talking about this exact point. So this isn't something that was off Trump's radar. That's something that he wasn't concerned about back in like 85 when he was on
right.
Oprah.
I'm sorry, but where did he get information that there was a resumption on the construction of nuclear weapons in Iran?
Oh, I mean, look, we know that the military already lies to Trump all the time, right? But I also don't believe.
No,
but I also
no,
don't. I also don't.
The DNI under Tulsi Gabbard already said no. They didn't resume anything after 2003. This was about the 12 days war, 12-day war, whatever. And he said, "I don't care what she says. I don't care what she."
Like I said,
I don't
Trump.
give a shit.
Trump has been talking. Trump has been talking about Iran having a nuclear weapon and his concerns about that all the way back into the 80s.
Sure.
So let's go also been talking about.
As has every other American politician, but not every other American politician was dumb enough to actually attack Iran.
But
at the same time,
Bibi Netanyahu has been talking about Iran getting this weapon since the 80s.
Oh yeah. I mean, my entire adult life.
There is literally zero American confirmation of some type of activity leading to an Iranian nuclear weapon, other than that enrichment to 60%, which they didn't do until Trump tore up the agreement. So he is responsible. I suppose they are responsible for doing it, but before he tore up the nuclear agreement with Iran, they did enrich up to any level that was uncomfortable for the United States. But Israel under Bibi, they had a problem with it, and they had.
Sure.
But again, Miriam Adelson is his biggest singular donor, I believe. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. And I would just like to remind everyone here, in 2020, one Jonathan Pollard came to Israel. A Texan Jew, who is the single biggest leaker of American classified information, came to Israel in the December of 2020 on the private plane of Sheldon Adelson, the late husband of Miriam Adelson, and received a personal welcome by one Bibi Netanyahu. So we're not talking about some type of, we might agree, we might not agree. No. This bastard is welcoming personally with papers of citizenship an American traitor on the private plane of a person who was the single biggest donor to Donald Trump, and then he passed away, and now his widow is his widow.
Back to what Jason said about Trump having this view for a very long time. Why is it so hard to believe that Donald Trump, a man who made all of his money in New York real estate, as did his father, Fred Trump, has a long-standing relationship with a lot of big Jewish money in New York, and he views the world entirely through that lens.
And the Chabad Lubavitch cult specifically.
His daughter converted to Judaism, married Kushner, his grandchildren. He proudly says that his grandchildren are Jewish. He praises Miriam Adelson for saying in so many words that she puts Israel first instead of America. I mean, why is it so hard to believe that,
he said so in the Knesset.
The world this way.
But here's the thing:
he's not a captive of the Zionist. He is a Zionist.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing: is I never understood why people were surprised about this.
No,
Donald Trump during his first
first
term moved the American consulate into what was it, Jerusalem, right?
Embassy,
the Abraham Accords. He's always been pro-Jewish. He's always been pro-Israel. This isn't news.
It's not rocket science.
So I never really understood the whole contention about Trump being pro-Israel. At the same time, and look, this is where I part ways with a lot of people. I reject the premise that Israel controls the world or controls Donald Trump. That I reject outright. Mostly because I don't believe in tails wagging dogs. I don't believe it.
You have this dichotomy that goes on with some people say Israel's just an American proxy like Ukraine is. And other people says Israel is the tail that wags the dog and we do everything Israel wants. I think what that view doesn't, that false dichotomy doesn't take into account is that the establishment that controls both Israel and the United States, and maybe the United Kingdom, other countries, is one big network of power. It is heavily Jewish, a lot of Jewish money, but they're not the only influence in it. You have all the big arms industries, you have the financial industry, you've got pharmaceuticals, you've got Hollywood, you've got academia, you've got the think tanks. It's like the Soviet government. A very complex, large network of power with a lot of different nodes, some of which don't like each other very much, but they basically are all part of the same operation. But one of those big nodes is a lot of big Jewish money based in New York, and Trump comes from that milieu.
Jason, when Trump gave his State of the Union speech prior to the invasion, there was one point he made at which the entire Congress gave a standing ovation, and that was his remarks about Iran. That's the only one.
Yeah.
I'll remind you, he had like a in the beginning. This wasn't the same speech, but he had a young black boy who survived brain cancer or something, and they didn't stand up for that. They stood up, however, for Iran. That's why I say
during his first administration. Sorry, go ahead, please.
No, this was the beginning of the second administration.
No, I'm saying in his first administration, the only time that CNN ever said he was acting presidential is when he bombed the Iranian generals. Yeah.
The embassy.
I don't know. And also when he hit Syria, they praised him for that too.
I was about to say the embassy in Syria, which is very, very illegal. But who cares, right? You're American.
It's extra legal.
Whatever you want.
Illegal.
Nah. But
the rules-based order is neither rules nor base. Discuss.
Exactly. It's very cringe, in fact. But his behavior, I'm all over Twitter. You know what you will hear about from people who will say things like, "Oh, we got the lower gas prices, right?" And they say, the only response I see is they were higher under Biden. Well, maybe that's why people voted for Trump. I understand.
Look, part of my work has been for the last few years has been tracking sort of the international bond market, right? So the offshore dollar system, euro dollar system, whatever people want to call it. That VIC is coming in. And it started in May of last year in Japan and has been creeping up all over the place. We're seeing 30-year bond yields, just to name a few, everywhere from the 5 to 10 to 15 to the 30-year bond yields across the West, across the globe, start to spike. Like they've been going up by percentages every single month. I follow them religiously. That's the ticking time bomb, right? I believe a lot of the things we're seeing geopolitically, Iran, everything else, is a way of distraction, right? A way to avoid in any way possible capital flight. Because once that capital flight starts, and I think Trump and co, right, their job right now is to become the cleanest, dirtiest shirt in the hamper. Because all the other economies are on fire. And no one's reporting on it and no one's talking about it, but every single economy in Europe right now is on fire.
People are talking about it.
Sure, I mean now they're talking. I'm saying they're not talking about the bond market. They're talking about inflation
prior to the war.
I'm talking this week. I don't see. I don't see this. I don't see this being discussed on CNN. I don't see this being discussed on Fox News or anything.
I was reliably informed that the entire Iran operation was about hampering China.
I think that's all BS.
Yeah, that's retarded. But because around 50% of Chinese imports come from the Strait of Hormuz pertaining to their fossil fuels, right? And then I thought, well, wait a minute, around 80% of Japanese imports of fossil fuels come from Strait of Hormuz, and about 70%
actually come from Australia, actually.
Oh, yeah, you Antipodean bastards. But 70% for Korea. So you, as much as you wanted to think you were kicking the Chinese and the NADs, you were kicking the Japanese and the Koreans a lot harder. And then the last time we spoke, Jason, we were talking about the pivot towards Asia. And it's turned out to be pivot away from Asia, as far as I can see, because of the THAAD systems, for example, that were implemented in Korea in 2017, causing a massive problem for Korea in Trump's first term. Now we're moved away were exported from Korea to the Middle East. And Japan and Korea, who are infinitely better allies of the United States than Israel ever was, have been put out to dry. They've been molested actively, basically. And if you ask Trump, it's well, you didn't warn us about Pearl Harbor. So good job, good job.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I mean, who else would have said that?
I laughed like my life depended on me laughing. Great job. You alienated one of. I don't think America has a better ally than Japan in the world.
Well, you mean a better satellite? I mean, what? I mean, they just do what they're told.
Does America have an ally that isn't a satellite?
No, that's what I mean. I don't even use the word. We have satellites. We don't have allies.
Yes, so they're interchangeable in my point.
Yes.
So is there a better ally America's got other than Japan and South Korea? And you buggered them. You buggered them mercilessly. To what end? To what end? The only
a little bugger. Look, Posh, a little buggery. Come on now. You Europeans don't understand. A little in North America, a little buggery amongst friends is just how we say hello. Just a little,
just a bit of banter, is it?
Yes, we Epstein our allies.
Oh. I'm Canadian. They've been doing this to our soft lumber trade for decades.
You were giving them some pizza. What are you?
Canadians wanted to. This was a thing. This is an actual thing. I mean, we can end with Canada. We're getting to the 2-hour mark, and I know you boys have been up for a long time. So, because I think it's a natural cap to this. But there was a story. God, this was, I think, went under Harper. Canada wanted to impose a rule saying that Canadian newspapers and magazines would get preferential treatment on in storefronts. Right, this is a Canadian thing. The Canadian content is always they're very insecure. Right,
planes
and America retaliated by putting a massive. I don't think it was an embargo, but it was basically a trade war over softwood lumber, which is a major export from Canada. And this went back and forth forever. And of course, Canada had to bent the knee because it's like, well, are you gonna get rid of your whole lumber? Right, you're really gonna go to a lumber war over some magazines. Playboy can stay on the top shelf, it's fine. But I remember that distinctly, and now with the whole trade war kind of stuff, I'm like, what, is this your first time? Like, why don't you ask us up north how this goes? But let's go to Canada, and we'll end with this because Mark Carney's been saying some silly things as well recently. Of course, now Saskatchewan just got Saskatchewan nationalists or Saskatchewan sovereigntists. Sorry, Alberta sovereigntists. Sorry, just signed just got enough signatures to force a referendum on separating Alberta from Canada. So that's, as a Quebecer, I know how those things go, and usually those things don't go. There's another finger in there, Jim, that should be waved around.
There's too many.
Well, hey, look, I'm always an optimist. We'll see what happens, but let's not pop any champagne anytime soon. But Mark Carney, basically 24 hours after that announcement, came out without statement, essentially saying that that Canada is going to deepen their relationship with Europe, even kind of hinting at Canada joining the EU. How this works, we don't know. Of course, they're so upset
right after Serbia
from Trump. They don't want to give their sovereignty to America. So they will give their sovereignty to Brussels.
Is this
because
like
that's better.
Australia being part of the Eurosong contest?
Well, there was Kanzuk. Euro Kanzuk. This is this has been bandied around for a while. Basically, a trade union deal between Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand, like sharing a trade currency, having basically open borders, like
that's
everyone's
your
passports would
Commonwealth.
work and all that kind of stuff.
That's your Commonwealth,
Yeah.
Pause colonials, but it's outstanding because I don't know if you remember in 2012 or 13, somewhere around that area, there was supposed to be a trade deal between Canada and the European Union. But the European Union's rules were strict. So one region was enough to blast the entire deal, and it was Walloon, which is a French-speaking part of Belgium. The only territory to reject it, but it was enough because the European Union said, no, you have to have unanimous consent. And that fell through. But right now, everything is so hectic. The European Union is pathetic, first of all. Like, they haven't got any power to project. Like,
No. They have no leverage either. But that doesn't stop them from trying.
Yes. Remember the last time I was on this channel, it was about seizing Russian assets in Belgium.
And also Latvia and Estonia was also threatening to seize Russian assets. Well, Belgium was threatening to seize the bank assets, and Latvia and Estonia were threatening to seize like real estate and property assets.
Yes. None of that came to pass because the Belgian Prime Minister, absolutely, because that would have caused a global crisis. But the Belgian Prime Minister was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not committing suicide. I mean, I don't know what you people are on, but we have people like Kaya Kallas in." I'm sorry, Jim, but
Estonia.
But I'm not sure why. I will discover in time, but I'm not sure why these Baltic countries all sound Greek and Roman. So I can't sort of find you partially responsible.
Thanks a lot.
If they sounded Serbian, I'd accept partially the blame.
Do you got a Byzantium hat there, Jim? Hanging there?
It probably does.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
We'll make do with this.
Okay, let's not.
Ship it, folks.
I can't hang it on my ears. I was on Jay Dyer's channel about Mormonism, and I had the entire thing, and my ears hurt.
Mormonism.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous.
Mormons, space wise.
I still have not found the full version of that.
Oh, that's great.
I'm still upset.
Oh, I have it right here.
But we're in a position. We should wrap up on Iran.
Yeah,
I think that's the big thing, and still
I'd
is.
rather wrap up on Mormon space wives, but that's all right.
Oh, you wish. We don't get.
How many, Jim?
10,000.
The number, evidently. It's like the Muslim heaven.
Scores.
No,
a Mormon doesn't.
But as far as Iran is concerned, I see the war in Iran as a panicked response. I don't see it as a carefully calculated attempt to seize a very major, choke point for trade. I see it as BB, whose ass is on the fire, pushing every button he can, try and get his American lackeys, I have to say, to do something, and convincing them that bombing or doing a decapitation strike will cause some type of uproar in Iran, and that will, because I don't see any preparation for some type of major shift occurring in the US, major industry rebuilding, great amounts of increase in production of fossil fuels of all sorts. None of that has happened. It seems that it was a strike that was expected to produce results within a weekend.
Can I give you a wrinkle on that? I agree with you in proximate terms, but I would say is this: the overriding goal of American policy since the end of the Cold War is global domination. Yes. And Serbia was an appetizer. We took all the other small fry off the table: Libya, Syria, Iraq, and so forth. But to maintain global domination, we have to take down the Russians, we have to take down the Chinese, we have to take down the Iranians, and we'll get around to the North Koreans eventually. But they're troublesome because they got nukes now too. Yeah,
but they're not that important in terms of
production. After we get the control of the big boys, we can deal with them at our leisure.
Yeah. You can choke them out.
And we were supposed to have destroyed Russia with the Ukraine war, bleed them white. They would collapse, Putin would be gone, and then we could move on to the Iranians, and then finally deal with the Chinese. That didn't work out with the Russians. So I think then that's where we get into what you just said about Bibi and the rest of it. Having failed with the Russians, why did Trump, as you say, Jason, he's been talking about Iran for a long time, as like everybody else in Washington has. But why was he dumb enough to do it when nobody else was dumb enough to do it? Because I think this is where Posh makes the point. They told him it was going to be a cakewalk. It was going to be like Venezuela. You'd be able to knock him out. It'll be another big win. You'll control everybody's oil, and choke points and all the other things you're talking about. And it didn't go well. That he was dumb enough to fall for it when previous presidents were not. So Iran got moved to the front of the line for the reason that Posh describes, but that's not the fundamental reason. The fundamental reason is we must rule the world, and by hook or by crook, by all fair means and foul, we intend to do it.
And with no concern. Go ahead.
And then let me be the dark horse here. Let me be the Ukrainian Canadian dark horse, throwing in a possibility of a different set of data, which is still relevant. We have an international global bond market or derivatives market that's set to burst, and it's gaining more water each and every day, right? One of the ways that I think that America is beginning to has begun to liberate itself from the yoke of the city of London and from European banking families was back. Hang on a second. When they moved from SOFR when they moved from LIBOR to SOFR, America finally had control of its own currency for the first time in over 200 years. Okay, that's also sitting in a whole other chain of events. You're seeing a parallel market in the bond market, a parallel market in the gold and silver markets, and now in basic commodities. Now it's going to be copper. I think it's a copper, and there's another one. I think nickel's now becoming a major dumping ground. Basically, money is moving, and money is moving quickly. In order, I think, to facilitate that and to set up what's coming next. And I'm not saying that what's coming next is going to be good. I don't know if it's going to benefit me, you, or anybody else. But this is what I think they're doing, right? I think Jimmy Dimon and a few other people like the Carlyle Group and a few other these big moneyed interests are starting to move money around. So when this thing happens, they're going to be able to reap rewards and have essentially a parallel economy set up. I think trade routes, energy markets, etc., all play into that. And that's
well, listen. This move on Iran has done a very, very poor number on Japan and South Korea, but Japan is a major
their economy is
holder.
already going. Yeah, their economy is already going underwater, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but ollum ad flammam non adere. Don't add oil to the flames.
Unless you want to force a resolution very, very quickly.
And which resolution would that be? Which resolution would that be? Because the Japanese are now in a position where they have to sell their treasuries that they own in the US to stabilize the yen.
Yeah, but to who? Here's the problem. Who are you going to sell it to? Right? And they're going to and they had to sell it. Here's the thing, Posh. They had to sell it anyways because when the Japanese 30-year bond moved up 2 percentile points from negative yields, right? All their bond yields moved up in some cases from negative yields to positive yields, and their 30-year bond moved up 2 percentile points. That put their currency that did a massive run on their currency. So now they had currency flight at the same time they had a bond yield crisis in Japan. They have to sell the treasury bonds. Japan's running out of moves. For the last year and a half, we watched the Bank of Japan do flip-flops and do amazing things like print out. They were printing out money to buy their own bonds back from themselves, just to keep the currency from collapsing.
I wonder who else does that.
We saw the exact same thing the Bank of England did, and that's a whole bunch of reason why they're interested in Ukraine, because the Bank of England has tied themselves up in financing Ukraine. And so if Ukraine doesn't go through, and
which
a
is
lot of
why,
those promises don't go through,
is why
the whole Bank of England collapses.
Trump.
Trump.
Not far from the descriptor, but you have a problem where Trump, for example, why he said he could solve the Ukraine-Russia issue in a day. It's because he thought, allegedly, this is without ascribing, surreptitious motives to him. He thought he could solve that because he thought this was some petty dispute between Putin and Zelensky, whereas it was an existential question for Russia. Why Russia can't accept Europeanized, NATOized Ukraine. There's not a chance, because for the same reason we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. Because
the
United States will not, but if he thought, I don't know what's worse, if he thought this was some personal dispute, like Putin was angry on a personal level, which it's so discouraging to think about it in that light. But on the other hand, forgive me, but he couldn't solve the issue, because the only thing he can do, which is what he did do, actually, he pulled out for the most part.
I wouldn't say that.
So, Jim, there was a German study about American involvement in Ukraine in 2025, which said that the decrease was 99% of participation.
Yeah, but
I still think
that's not pulling out. That's just turning the
yes,
telling the Europeans, we want you guys to do this. We'll still manage it.
yes, it's a change in
Yeah.
management.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Because even things like the attack on that presidential palace, I don't know if you want to call it that, where Putin was supposed to be, was attacked. But anything worthwhile from Ukraine to Russia, within Russia, has to be launched by the consent, not just the consent, but the active participation of Western intelligence services and I suppose
who controls those? We do.
Yes, basically the United States. I suppose
MI6 has a big role in it too. But
yes,
still,
people will say the British.
Well, see, this is part of the disagreement I have back to Jason with all this talk about City of London and LIBOR and all these other things. I don't see the United States as being motivated by some kind of Hamiltonian economic nationalism or something like that. Back to what I said earlier, this is all one big corrupt operation. It's a transnational corrupt regime in several countries. The idea that Wall Street and the City of London are pitted in this fight to the death for American sovereignty, bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry, pardon my French. I mean, they're all part of the same operation. The idea that we have to repatriate the dollar or get control of our own money, or that we're at war with the European banking families, they're all in cahoots with each other.
I've got one name.
One big corrupt family of gangsters.
Look,
I've got one name to mention, and that's Howard Lutnick.
Yeah, there you go. Gee, and hey, what? They're all Irish. Who would have imagined, right?
The bastards.
Well, hang on.
Bastards.
But hang on. We can draw lines to the Vatican Bank and to a lot of other names. And a lot of the other names that
there are other corrupt guys in there too. No question about it. But the idea that their turf wars are what drives American policy, rather than they're simply turf wars under one big transnational corrupt umbrella. That's all I see.
Yeah,
look,
that's my review.
I have thrown out the comment that was told to me that all these people work. They all work for the same people. And I personally put that data point into all my analysis.
And by the way, that includes the Russian central bank too. By the way, while we're at it,
of course. I'm not looking for heroes here.
Oh yeah. We're not.
I don't expect it. I don't expect to see it.
No, not the only land is a Tatar, not a Jew.
Right. I think the only analysis to break it down into two plans. And gentlemen, I know this is getting late for everyone. Yeah. So we'll
early for Posh.
Early for Posh, late for you.
Oh, yeah.
I've been up for almost 24 hours. So,
you should contact the local apothecary. That's the case.
We'll be drinking the rubbing alcohol in a second. The what? It's good for the natives. It's good for me. The only thing that I'm looking at and that I'm trying to piece together is which way the plan is going to go. Is it 1984 or is it Brave New World? It's feeling more and more, and it changes from day to day, right?
Yeah.
It could be both. Yay!
It could be both. Depends what hemisphere you're in. It could be both.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's kind of
sad where we are.
Yeah. We got $10, well, 100 Mexican pesos.
Wow.
From Willie Manuel. Missed most of this. Looks like it went great. Thank you,
President Scheinbaum.
Gentlemen, Any last thoughts? Any last words before we sign out?
I
And
just want to,
thank you
I
both
just-
again for coming.
I just want to say, koto kaže, koto laže, Serbia je mala.
Ko to kaže, ko to laže, Srbija je
Ne mala, ne mala.
You didn't know you're going to get singing, folks, but you get
Oh,
singing.
there you go.
From Serbia with love.
Singing Super Serb.
Mr. Posh Redneck, let the people know. Let people know where they can consume your fine wares, sir, your digital wares.
Well, I wish I was more productive in showing my views, but I'm rather lazy. Maybe Jim knows. We're rather lazy people.
Only Montenegrins.
No, they are the pinnacle of it. They are our we're the lazy people in like the general Western.
In
The
America?
Irish?
No, they're more pugnacious. They like
Yeah,
to fight.
yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
the German
Posh has a
Irish
long-standing feud with the Irish. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
But it's,
I love them, and I am
I like them
studying
too.
Irish as a language, but that includes being extraordinarily hostile. But so,
God bless them.
oh yes, I love the Irish. Forget that, all my jokes. But yeah, whatever. Things aren't well in the world. But at any case, we started this talking about Father Seraphim Rose being canonized or glorified by Rocor, or at least being prepared to be. So you have to remember, if you're Christian, you're living in times of extraordinary luxury.
Yeah.
Where our forebears were massacred in the most inhumane ways imaginable. So just be happy, you know, you're not being sawn in half, you know, of some in the town square.
I mean, it's still early. I mean, you know,
Yeah, well,
things could change.
between
It
the
might
pagans,
still happen, but you're not currently.
no, between the
We would hope.
pagans, the Muslims, the communists, and the papists, it's been a pretty rough 1,000 years.
As
Couple thousand
as a Serb, I have to say we've been slaughtered by, you know, we've been slaughtered by Catholics for being Orthodox, by Muslims for being Christian, and by communists for being religious at all. So we've got the full
Smorgasbord, yeah.
Well, you did
smorgasbord, yes.
start World War One, though. You did start World War One. So
No,
I
we
mean, like,
didn't. Don't start. We're about to leave.
We're just getting started
Yeah.
now.
Why was the bastard in Sarajevo? Why was he in Sarajevo?
shots fired. Jim Jatras. Hey, have you been on any shows recently, Jim, that people should go check
I've
out?
been on with Daniel Davis a bit, pretty much weekly now.
Yes,
I'll
I
be with him-
love David.
I'll be with him tomorrow. So look forward to that at noon Eastern time
I
tomorrow.
take a few months off. Daniel Davis moves in on you.
Yeah. What can
you
I
know.
say?
Yeah, Daniel
Talk
Davis
to this
is
Dave.
my favorite commentator to listen to because
Yeah.
the news is grim. So
I'm
I'd
sitting
like
right
to.
here, Posh.
Yeah,
Like,
but what I was about.
I know
to
I made
say
the World
was-
War One joke, but I mean, like, you don't have to be cruel here.
No, but I wanted to say was I'd like for the grim news to be at least delivered with a
Yeah.
beautiful Texan accent.
Yeah. And next week I should have a program released with my friend Cameron McGregor discussing whether the American ethnos has a future, and that should be an interesting discussion.
And of course, folks, you're watching the channel. This is my channel. There's many like it, but this one is mine. I am Jason Mironchuck. We'll be, oh yes, of course, and go get yourself your book. Try to warn you. Amazon bookshelves, Amazon. You can order from Amazon, Kindle, and all your fine booksellers out there. Thank you for all the support, folks. Keeps the money sending in. I'll be back on I think Thursday. For our American listeners and viewers for the solo show, and then be more shows next week. Getting back in the groove. You're a little bit of an absence, so we're getting there.
Ooga booga and all of that.
Ooga booga booga. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, brothers and sisters, comrades, and other strangers, I am Jason Mironchuck, and it's later than you think.